There was once a time in America when night truly meant darkness. No buzzing street lamps, no glowing signs, no hum of appliances filling the silence. When the sun dipped below the horizon, life slowed, and families gathered close to a flickering lantern or the dim, warm glow of a fireplace. Imagine walking through a small town in the 1800s. After dusk, the only light spilling onto the dirt roads came from candles set in windows or the moon hanging above. Shadows stretched long and deep, and the world seemed quieter, more mysterious. Life before electricity was not just about darkness, it was about a rhythm that followed nature itself. People woke with the sun because wasting daylight meant wasting productivity. Farmers headed into their fields as the first golden light touched the horizon, and children often helped with chores before heading to one-room schoolhouses. Inside homes, women prepared meals on wood-burning stoves, the smell of fresh bread mixing with the smoke that lingered in the rafters. Simple tasks we take for granted today, like boiling water or washing clothes, were once labor-intensive rituals that consumed hours of the day. A bucket of water had to be drawn from a well. Clothes were scrubbed on washboards, wrung out by hand, and hung to dry in the open air. In those days, America's kitchens were the true heart of the home. Without refrigerators, meat was stored in cellars or smoked in sheds to keep it from spoiling. Ice boxes, when available, relied on large blocks of ice harvested from frozen rivers in winter and delivered by the local iceman. The rhythm of meals followed the seasons. Fresh produce was eaten right from the garden, while autumn meant long hours of canning fruits and vegetables to last through the cold months. Families had to plan, preserve, and ration in ways that modern Americans rarely think about. Evenings carried their own kind of magic. After chores were done and supper was eaten, families often gathered in the parlor. Instead of the glow of a television or the distraction of smartphones, there was conversation, storytelling, or perhaps a father reading aloud from a worn book by candlelight. Children played simple games, mothers mended clothing, and neighbors might stop by to share news. Entertainment was rooted in human connections. Songs sung together, fiddles played at barn dances, and laughter echoing across the fields. And let's not forget how different travel was in this pre-electric world. Streets were not lined with glowing signals or neon lights. Townspeople moved about with lanterns in hand or relied on the steady trot of horses pulling carriages under a star-strewn sky. The journey that takes us minutes by car today could take hours or even an entire day. Railroads were growing, yes, but for many Americans in rural areas, the horse and buggy remained the backbone of mobility. The absence of electricity meant the pace of life was slower, deliberate, and rooted in patience. But life was not without its dangers. Fire was both a necessity and a constant threat. One stray spark from an oil lamp or a fireplace could mean disaster. That's why communities were so tightly knit. Neighbors depended on one another when calamity struck. If a barn caught fire, the whole town might rush in with buckets of water, forming lines to try and save it. Life without electricity demanded vigilance, cooperation, and resilience. As industry expanded in America's cities, factories relied on steam power and gas lighting to keep production running. Streets in larger towns were sometimes lit by gas lamps, creating a dim but steady glow that felt almost magical compared to the inky blackness of rural life. Yet even this came with risks. Gas leaks, explosions, and fires were all too common. For most people outside the cities, night remained a curtain of darkness, and daily life was still bound by the rising and setting of the sun. Families built routines around this reality. Weddings, church gatherings, and community events often happened in the afternoon, ensuring everyone could get home before nightfall. Farmers scheduled work according to the weather and the season, and children learned early that every hour of daylight mattered. In many ways, electricity had not yet touched their lives, but this was normal. It was the only way of life they knew. And yet, Despite the hard labor and limitations, there was a deep sense of closeness. Neighbors knew one another's names, families leaned on each other, and every shared story or song carried more weight in a world without endless distractions. Nights might have been darker, but they were filled with the glow of togetherness. Life in America before electricity wasn't just about survival. It was about community, resilience, and a harmony with nature's rhythm that modern times can barely imagine. But slowly, change began to creep in. The promise of electricity started in the cities, where glowing bulbs replaced dim gas lamps and factories stayed alive through the night. For rural families, the idea of flipping a switch and filling a room with light felt almost magical. It was a luxury at first, something people read about in newspapers or heard in stories from travelers. Generations who had lived by the rise and fall of the sun suddenly faced a future where night could be pushed back with the simple pull of a chain. With electricity came convenience, but also a new way of living. No longer did families have to ration daylight for chores or huddle together by a single lamp. Instead, rooms glowed brightly, machines lightened the load of daily work, and evenings stretched longer. The rhythm of life shifted. People could read, study, or work after dark. Entertainment grew beyond storytelling and song, as radios and later televisions brought the wider world into American homes. And yet, as extraordinary as this progress was, something of that earlier rhythm faded. The deep quiet of a dark countryside, the closeness of families gathered around a fire, the patience that came from working with the sun, all of it gave way to a faster, brighter, and busier world. Electricity didn't just change homes, it changed people. It redefined what Americans thought was possible. Life before electricity may seem unimaginable now, almost like another world entirely. But for those who lived it, it was simply life, full of struggle, yes, but also full of meaning, connection, and resilience. Perhaps in remembering that time, we can appreciate not just the power that lights our homes today, but also the strength and spirit of those who lived in the shadows and built the foundation for the America we know now. So, what do you think life would feel like if the lights suddenly went out and we had to live as they once did?